Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to today's edition of RE335, where I take old stories I've narrated and update into modern audio standards. This particular story is called A Curiosity, written by Just a Tad. It was well into the 5th millennium by the time humanity discovered how to cross between the stars with ease. Of course, before that, by millennium number 3, we had sent out the first colony ships. Great sleeping leviathans, holding thousands of humans in stasis chambers. Someone managed to figure out a new form of propulsion and energy source that would allow us to get them up to a few % of the speed of light. Sounds fast, right? Wrong. Space is big. I mean, really big. It was going to take close to 1,000 years just to get out of the system, and thousands of years to get anywhere else. Still, all the colonists volunteered, even knowing that they might wake up in 10,000 years to an uninhabitable planet, but that didn't seem to deter them. Then, just before the end of the 38th century, we worked out how to travel faster than the speed of light. Only a few times faster back then. It all seems so primitive looking back now. A few hundred years after that, when flitting around the solar system between the orbital gardens of Venus and the hydrogen mining dockyards of Neptune had become as simple as getting a bus between two cities, someone suggested that we should probably go and get the colony ships back. No trivial task, but they managed it. Then we sent out new ones, ships that would go hundreds, if not thousands of times faster than the original ships. By the turn of the 42nd century, a suitably large vessel could manage about 120 C. Again, sounds fast, right? Well, it was better than 0.01 C. At 120 C, you could be at Proxima Centauri well inside of a month. Useless, though, that star turned out to be. But still, to get around our neighboring part of the galaxy, it was still a serious journey, and oftentimes a one-way trip. In 5460, 1.93.275 by the new Solarian calendar, we discovered how to fold space. And I don't mean some kind of hyperspace window or weird science fiction stuff. We could literally bring any 2 points in space, regardless of distance, together for enough time for a vessel to pass between them. The crazy thing, it was right under our noses the entire time. The scientists that discovered it almost sounded sheepish when accepting his prize money. Anyone could have discovered it up to a few thousand years ago. It just took someone to look at it in the right place. And it was easy. Anyone could do it with some pretty basic equipment. And that was it for humanity. Anyone could travel anywhere in the universe, and people did. It was chaos at first. At first, most people were cautious, jumping their little ships out to somewhere between galaxies before coming back. But there were the nutters as well. People would jump thousands of galaxies away. Hell, it was a matter of weeks before someone decided they wanted to see what the edge of the universe looks like. And only a few hours after that, someone decided to try and go beyond. Some people will still be on the edge today, trying to see if there is anything but empty space. So, humanity flourished. War's kind of a non-issue when everyone has everything they could want. Why fight for a galaxy when there were billions of others just like it? Why have wars over resources when we had more than we could possibly ever need? Tens of thousands of years later, when humanity now occupied millions of star systems and had destroyed and made many more just because they could, when families had taken up a nice quiet little star system in one corner of the universe, and when one morning Grandma would decide that she didn't really like the color of that planet over there, so Dad would just go out and replace it with one from another system. When there was a literal restaurant at the edge of the universe, millions in fact. And when little Johnny would come home from school in the afternoon showing Mummy's report card, where he'd been given bad grades because you can't just wrap a star in a Dyson sphere and expect it to be enough for an A. When all of this had become the normality, all humanity really only had was one fundamental thing in common, which were two philosophical questions. One, is there just us in the universe? And two, if so, then what now? Just because humanity could go anywhere didn't mean they had been everywhere. In fact, at the last census, the Guild of Cartographers announced that the estimated humanity explored somewhere around 0.0001% of the universe. A rough number to be sure, But even at its greatest, it meant that there were still untold billions of galaxies that we hadn't even touched. Explorers redoubled their efforts, hopping between often tens of star systems in a day, and artificially intelligent starships hopped around in the spaces between galaxies, searching for any signs of life. Doing the maths, even if another civilization had discovered fault space technology and was doing the same thing as us, there was an alarmingly small chance of bumping into each other. We invented more advanced scanners, which could pulse an entire star system in fractions of a second, and then armed drones with these scanners and set millions of them off, scanning thousands of systems a day. We started to find clues, suggestions. Even by our advanced technology, we weren't sure at first. Then, as we searched faster and faster, we started to find more evidence of other life. We discovered our first natural garden world, full of life and wonder. None of it technologically advanced, but there was a clear apex predator that would likely evolve in time. We left sentries to watch over and care for the planet, and tugged a few meteors out of the way that looked like they might have hit in a few billion years. Nothing special. Then we continued to search. We found several more. A few thousand years later, we found what we had been looking for, undeniable evidence of an advanced civilization. Judging by their technology, they had advanced to a similar level as us. Though what we found were ruins and environments that had clearly been artificially created. There was no life, but we did find data, coordinates of other systems the civilization had inhabited. So we traveled to all these places, only to find the same. A dead civilization, not killed by war or disease, or even age. They'd simply decided to stop being. It seemed they too had asked themselves the same questions, and answered them. We found records of their own searches, evidence of thousands of other civilizations that had all existed, just never at the same time. They existed millions of years apart from each other, in the cold darkness of the universe. It wasn't space that kept alien civilizations apart. It was time. We searched through the history of all these civilizations, pored over all that was there, and managed to piece together much of what was not. It was the same case for all of them. There was no reason for their demise, no great enemy, no plague, no robot uprising, or anything like that. Once these civilizations had expanded to the point where they had everything they ever wanted, they stopped. They never seemed to wonder, what was the purpose to all of this? Why are we here? Is this universe all there is? They just decided that they had had enough. It was a commonality with all of the races. Every decision in their path was driven by pure logic and reason, which, on the face of it, would seem insensible, but would eventually prove to be all of their downfalls. Meanwhile, humanity was fueled by something different. Sure, we could be logical, and sure, we all liked a good debate about the pros and cons of something, but we had something the universe had never seen before. We were curious. From the tiniest baby wondering what that table leg might taste like, to the crazed scientist wondering just what would happen if you accelerated a star above light speed. From the teenager who just had to know if you could climb that tree, to the explorer who couldn't bring himself to stop searching for alien life. We had that burning desire for knowledge. And when the universe ran out of questions for us, we just made up more. So, here I sit, millions of years later, a proud day for humanity as we make first contact with one of the species on a garden world that we had watched over for all this time. Today, we welcome the first non-humans to the stars. And why are we still here? Why did we hang around for these millions of years? We just had to know. We're curious like that. End of story. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Casper Arnholt, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.